ahead already. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Camila Dasgupta. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a human resources advisor with the Public Service Commission of Canada, which is a department within the Government of Canada. I'll be talking to you today about the variety of student jobs you can find in the federal public service and, of course, how to apply. Through our student hiring programs, you can join one of the top student employers in Canada. And I can guarantee that whatever job you're passionate about, the public service probably has it. Whether you prefer working in the office or out in nature, or you're looking for full-time or part-time, there is definitely a variety of work available. And I'm going to introduce you to some of these options today. So before we dive into the specifics of our student hiring programs and how to get a job, we are going to talk a little bit about the benefits of a student job with the Government of Canada. A student job exposes you to what it sort of means to be a public servant and our day-to-day operations. We do offer competitive salaries, which can range from around $17 an hour to $37 an hour. And you can be a part of an inclusive work environment, which includes participating in some specific programs, which I will talk a little bit more about later in this presentation. So let's talk about eligibility for our student programs. In order to be considered for one of the three types of student hiring programs, there are sort of three main things you need to fit. You must be a full-time student. You must meet the minimum age requirement to work in the province or territory of your work. And you must be returning to full-time studies in the following academic term or year. So I'll just note here that we define full-time based on what schools consider full-time students. So this does include persons with disabilities that have full-time status given by their academic institution. And it also includes participants in adult secondary level education and retraining programs. If you're in your final year of study and you're not intending to return to full-time studies after graduation, you can only work up until the date that you graduate. Okay, so on this slide, we can see an overview of the three main student hiring programs that are available with the Government of Canada to help you find work in any sort of department. We have FSWEP, we have Co-op, and we have RAP with a Research Affiliate Program. I am going to talk more about each of these three programs in the upcoming slides. So we'll start with FSWEP, the Federal Student Work Experience Program. This is our largest student hiring program. This program is open all year round, and it's what we call an ongoing inventory of students. So that means there's no closing date and there's no deadline to apply. You can apply at any time when you sort of are looking for an opportunity. FSWEP offers full-time and part-time work opportunities in a broad range of fields in every department and agency, from sort of outdoor field work to labor and trades, to research, to office positions, sort of in, administration, IT, finance, policy, human resources, communications. Literally, if you can think of it, we probably have an opportunity. With FSWEP, you don't necessarily need to work in your field of studies, which is kind of cool. You can kind of select what interests you or maybe something new. But of course, you can also look for opportunities in your field of studies. And then one thing to note is even though it's open all year round, most managers start hiring now for their summer work opportunities. So definitely make sure you're applying soon if you're looking to line something up for this summer. There's also another side to the FSWEP program, which is what we call the specialized inventories. Unlike the general FSWEP ongoing inventory, the specialized inventories are only available periodically for specific jobs or disciplines. And the opportunities do have a deadline to apply. So specialized inventories require sort of a separate application than the ongoing general FSWEP inventory because they have more specific requirements than our regular student jobs. Some opportunities in the specialized inventories include sort of student guide interpreters with Heritage Canada. You could be a boat rescue with the Canadian Coast Guard. And there's even an opportunity abroad to work at Vimy Ridge in France, which is pretty cool. So, lots out there to choose from. I'm sure the question now is sort of how do I apply? So you will see the QR code on the screen here, which will bring you directly to the website. You just need to click on that apply button once you get there. The application only takes 10 minutes and it'll ask you really basic questions, sort of like what's your availability to work, and the type of work you're interested in, what your studies are, and also where you want to work. And one helpful tip is if you are studying outside of your hometown, you can indicate both your school location and your home location as options for work. And that way you can sort of decide to go home for the summer to work, or if you are open to staying in your school's town, you might have options there as well. So it sort of opens up a few more doors for you and lets you be more flexible about where you want to be in the summer. Lastly, it's important to update your FSWEP application often to make sure that the information is still accurate. So if your specialization changes, or your contact information, or your availability, or you move into a different year of studies even, you really need to keep that information updated and accurate, and ensure that you've got it all in there, because that really helps ensure that you have a better matching between your application and your job opportunities. Okay. So now we'll talk a bit about co-op, and I see some questions coming in. I'll make sure I address those at the end once we get through this presentation. If you're in university and you're registered in a co-op internship program, you can consider having your placement with the Government of Canada. Co-op does work a bit differently from FSWEP though. You must meet the general requirements for student hiring, which we spoke about before, but you also have to be enrolled in a co-op program through your school. And the work term that you complete through this mechanism then ends up being required for you to graduate, unlike FSWEP, and it must be related to your field of studies. If your work term is required by the school to be your last semester before you graduate, then you don't need to meet that earlier requirement we spoke about with regards to returning to studies in the following semester. So that's just an important differentiation there. Co-op applications are mostly posted through your school. Managers will work with your school to promote the job opportunities. So you do need to get in touch with your program representative to learn more about how to get your co-op placement with the Government of Canada. I will mention here that once in a while we do have co-op opportunities on GC Jobs. So it is helpful to sort of set up a notification for this on your GC Jobs account if you want to be alerted to these sorts of opportunities when they do come up. The last program we'll talk about is the Research Affiliate Program. This program is a bit more niche and sort of designed for students to conduct research as part of their studies. So if you're really into research and you want to pursue that as an actual career path, then this is possibly the program for you. RIP, in terms of our eligibility, you need to meet that minimum criteria that we previously talked about as part of the general FSWEP inventory. And you also must be enrolled in a post-secondary program that requires research as part of your curriculum. So because of this, we typically see RIP opportunities for master's and PhD students, but we sometimes do find that managers are looking for an honors student as well. So just keep that in mind when considering this program. As far as the research work placement goes, the research must be required for graduation, and then it must be related to your field of studies and is generally focused on a particular topic or discipline. And then this is just showing you where you can find the applications for RIP job opportunities. That's on our generic GC Jobs website. So here we'll talk about that inclusive work environment I mentioned at the beginning. If you secure a work term with the Government of Canada under any of those three programs that we just talked about, so FSWEP, Co-op, RIP, then there are some support programs that you become eligible for. So the first is ISAO, the Indigenous Student Employment Opportunity Program. This program helps reduce barriers to the full participation of Indigenous students in the workplace by helping to improve their work term experience. The program has many features, including some learning sessions. You can network with other public servants who identify as Indigenous, and there's some mentorship opportunities that are only open to participants of the program. And then similar to the ICO program, we have the Employment Opportunity for Students with Disabilities program, which offers students living with a disability support services and opportunities during their work terms with the Government of Canada. EOSD offers a lot of the same program components and support services as ICO that I just mentioned, but with EOSD, we tailor them and deliver them differently to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students with disabilities. So both programs run all year long. So really make sure to register for these programs if you start working with the Government of Canada. You can ask your manager how to get involved. So the last thing I want to touch on before I get to some questions is talking about rehiring and student bridging. If you get hired early in your studies, students can then get rehired in future terms as long as they continue to meet those eligibility requirements we talked about at the beginning. Once you're hired as a student, even if it's only for one work term, you have the ability to be bridged in after graduation. This word bridging is sort of what we use to describe the process of transitioning from student to employee, and it typically doesn't involve a competition or a job advertisement, which a lot of both students and hiring managers really appreciate. So to sum up the last sort of 10 minutes, no matter what you're interested in here, there's definitely a lot of great opportunities with the Government of Canada and many benefits to working with us as a student. Before I kind of fully finish up and try to address some of those questions, I do want to stress that your feedback is really important to us. This is how we can provide our information at sessions like this to better meet your needs. So with that, I would appreciate if you could sort of scan this QR code and take a minute to fill out the survey. Your participation is, of course, voluntary, and there will be kind of no negative impact on your application of any sort. And then this last slide here is just to help you stay in touch, make sure you don't miss anything. You can follow us on social media. We have various job opportunities that we share every week. And if you have questions too, you can feel free to email us. That's everything from me. I will open up the chat now and see what sort of questions have come through, because I can see there's a couple here. Okay. Where are we starting, Jess? What was the last question?
Well, thank you so much, Camila. That was excellent.
Catch up.
Yeah, I think the first one is there a GPA requirement?
Great. Okay. Thanks, Miriam. There is no GPA requirement for student jobs. We don't typically ask about your grades in your application, and your manager wouldn't typically do that either. So no GPA requirement. And also we do have student jobs open to high school students as well. So just very, very open, very inclusive. And you don't need to worry about like transcripts or grades or anything when you're applying. Is the FSUP advisable for international students? It is open to international students. They can apply. I actually don't know the ins and outs of international applications, so I might recommend that you email us. I don't typically work on the FSUP file all the time, so I'm not the most up to date on sort of those specificalities about international students. So if you're looking to get more information specifically about that, I would say give us an email and someone will respond to you pretty quickly with all the information you need to know about the considerations if you're an international student looking to apply. Do FSWEP have a requirement? A requirement for FSEP have a requirement. I'm not sure I fully understand the question. If Shalom can maybe let me know if there's like a requirement for something specific, then I can try to sort of answer that one. In terms of our like eligibility requirements, it's those ones that I mentioned sort of at the beginning of the presentation. I'll go back to it now to pull it up on the screen. Maybe not that one. Oh, I thought I had them here. Basically, it's the sort of you need to be you need to have the minimum age required to work in your um, province or territory. So in Nova Scotia, that's 16. You need to be 16. I'm not sure what it is in PEI. It's possibly the same. You need to be a full-time student. That means full-time academic status. So if you're a student with a disability and you work part and you study part-time, but you've been granted full-time status, that still counts. And then you need to be returning to your full-time studies in the following academic year. So if you're in your third year of studies, then and you're returning next year, in September to your fourth year of studies, then you would be eligible to do an FSWEP term. Is co-op the same as internship, or can I apply for an internship without the school? Typically, when we're talking about internship, we have that interchangeable with co-op. So if you're in a co-op program in your school, that's what we would be talking about with internship. However, there's a caveat. You can apply for internships with the Government of Canada. They're harder to find and they're not advertised in the same way, but an example for me actually is I did human resource management, like 1 year business diploma at the Nova Scotia Community College. And through that program, I was required to do an internship. And I managed to secure my internship, my 5-week placement with Parks Canada. It it happens. We also had somebody else in my program who secured their internship with Public Services and Procurement Canada. So it's definitely possible if it's just more of a sort of general internship, but it's typically still part as sort of required as part of your studies. So there's a bit of flexibility there. But when we're talking on this slide about our really like formal programs, we're talking about co-op. If you have any questions for Camila Dasgupta from the corner, yes, please type in the chat and raise your hand. Great. Camila, how do you apply for summer internships with EPSWEP? So it would be exactly that way. You'd go online, you'd scan this QR code here, you'd click apply, and then you would make sure you're completing your form and you letting them know your availability that you're looking for that summer employment. EPSWEP does hire all throughout the year, so you can apply for fall and winter as well. But summer is sort of that, the peak hiring season. And right now is when you want to be putting in your application. Hiring managers are starting to pull applications out, every day. They're pulling out dozens of applications, starting to set things in motion to make sure that they have their students lined up for the summer. So if you're looking for a summer internship with FSWEP, you definitely want to be applying soon.